Welcome to It's Only Money here on your radio. I'm here. Well, I'm Ryan, and I'm here with financial advisors Scott Brown and Tammy from Edgewater Family Wealth. EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com, of course, is the website you go to get a hold of these gentlemen. Plus, links to past episodes, the blogs, financial talks with Tammy, and big day, because the first time I've actually seen Tammy since he has become an official American citizen.
We need the anthem now. Good morning.
I know. I wish I would have had that keyed
I got
up
my hand
already.
over my heart right now.
Yeah. Well, that's
I pledge allegiance. Yeah, that.
Yeah, now we got to teach him the secret handshake.
Yep.
And it's a gun.
You
You have to clank two guns together.
Careful. Put it on safety, like we talked about.
Of course. Yeah.
How's it feel?
Feels great. Part of this very exclusive club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're one of 350 million now.
Indeed.
Yeah.
One of the good people.
Yeah. We got some good people. Yeah, it's exciting, right? So Tammy, he's going to be a little shy about this, I'm sure, but he, he's living the American dream. I don't know if you would agree with that. But,
I would definitely agree with that. I think it's live and well, and I've been here for like 10 years now.
Yep.
I remember first day I arrived to this country. It was a great day. Came right to Texas.
Really?
Oh, starting off strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, Houston, Texas. That was November 18th, I think, 2013.
Yeah. Wow.
that
So
was-
Texas was your first experience.
Yep.
Everything was bigger and better there, wasn't it? Yeah. That's
Everybody
all right.
was friendly, and I
Yeah.
remember that day I walked in, and the guy at the station, wherever you go, I didn't know what they were called at first, but that gentleman, he's like, "Welcome to the U.S., sir," and he just stamped the thing, and I felt, whoa,
Yeah.
it was something. I was out of movie.
Now, do they take you straight from immigration to buy cowboy boots there? Is that how
Yeah.
that works? You get a big hat?
Well, I don't know, because luckily, as soon as I arrived, there was another plane that was heading towards Miami that I took.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I got to Miami, and I stayed in a place called Little Havana.
Well, so
Mm.
let me get this straight. You fly into Texas,
Yep.
where it's cowboy hats and boots. And then you fly to Miami, where you're like, I don't speak Spanish.
No, and that's the thing. I walked out there, and I was very happy trying to meet people,
Yeah.
and they try to engage and have some conversation, and they all were fine and happy to talk to me as well, but in Spanish.
Yeah,
Which I didn't know.
As John Mellencamp said, "Ain't that America?" Right? You're putting cowboy boots on 1 minute, and you're in Little Havana the next minute. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
Yes, you told me something really interesting as we were getting ready to come on, because I was like, "Well, how'd you do on the test?" And I feel like I'd do okay, but it'd be risky, if I had to take the test right now and my citizenship was on the line, I'd be sweating bullets. But you told me it's not a written test.
Yeah, it's not. You file a file, which is a very long, big file, but then you wait for your interview, and then when we call you for it, you go, and it's a verbal. You sit down and you talk with the USCIS officer.
Mm.
They ask you questions.
That's intense.
I mean, they're friendly, to be honest.
Oh,
They're-
okay.
Yeah, they don't make a big deal of it. They just sit you down, talk to you. They ask you some stuff about your taxes, questions about, who is the first president of the U.S.
Mm.
Stuff. What
That
are
would
the
stump
three,
a few people around here.
what are the three branches of government?
Yeah, because
etc.
it's something along. You have to learn like 100 answers to 100 questions, right?
Yes.
And then they ask you 10.
Yeah, they ask you 10, you have to get 6 right.
I would like knowing that it's like if I had to go to another country and they're like, yeah, they're gonna ask you, but they're gonna be looking at you and talking to you, and if you don't get them correct, you don't get to be a citizen.
Then what happens? What if you get them wrong? What do they do with you?
I don't know. That's a good question.
They're like, we have a car waiting outside for you,
Yep.
sir.
It's like a game show. It's like,
Yeah.
sorry, you're kicked off the continent.
Yeah, you get rice-a-roni and then they
Yeah.
kick you out.
There's a big buzzer that comes out like, "Beep, you're out."
Chuck Woolery's involved. I don't understand, but yeah. Well, in our office, it was Ryan. It was a pretty big deal. I took him, and Vin, who does a lot of our video work, also has recently become a U.S. citizen.
Yeah.
My office is kind of the gateway to America. I like to
Yeah.
think, right? So I took Vin and Tammy out to lunch.
Give me you're poor, you're destitute, you're financially illiterate.
Yes, that's on the statue out front. But yeah, it was exciting to me. So I took him to lunch, and then I had to stall and wait for the cake to come, and then I took him back to the office, and we had the whole red, white, and blue. And I got to tell you, there's a few people that were very moved. There's a couple of people that got teary-eyed about the whole thing. And again, that's pretty cool, I think.
You sent me the video of him just like in a yard waving a flag, and I was like, hell yeah!
That was in my house. Yeah, I had that flag specially for this occasion.
Like, you can go to LinkedIn and find that video.
Oh,
it's
really?
Pretty cool. Yeah, if you've looked me up on LinkedIn, and I think you'll see Tammy waving the flag in front of his house. It's pretty badass.
Yeah, living it real.
Yeah, it's just we as just Americans, like with our citizenship, we don't even think about it. Like coming from another place, there's parts of the world that are like completely different, and it's and I like living here. I don't never plan on living in another country other than Japan, because I just want to be really tall.
Yeah,
and
I'd be like an NBA star there.
Yes,
but that's about it. And it's like all of this stuff. So what's something that you wanted to do before that now you can do it?
Well,
just
voting and running for office. Those are the two things.
Tammy for president.
Yeah, right. Well, I can't be president.
But you could be a mayor.
But you could be a mayor. You could be a governor. You could be a Congress member. Yeah, but not a president.
All right.
Very cool. Well, I'm happy for you, man.
Thank you.
I think we're all proud to have him on the team, aren't we?
Oh yeah.
It really feels great, I have to say, and that the party everybody threw up for me at work was really moving, really, really moving. This country I love it. The fact that you can do what you can do here is something that is almost absent anywhere else.
Really?
And I've seen a lot of the world. I can't say I've seen all of it, but I've seen a lot. And I can tell you, being born here is a massive privilege.
Yeah, wow. I was shocked to find out how there's not like a lot of financial mobility between classes in most places. Mm-hmm. Like we think of it just like, oh yeah, I'll just work harder. American dream is just like, of course, I'm going to be rich,
sure,
right? Like, and no matter where you start, it's not even a question in our mind. We're like, yeah, if you work hard enough, you do it. Of course, you move up in society, but there are places where like you're born like this, it's going to be this way the whole time.
Yeah. Even developed countries, even in Europe. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just, as you said, the upward mobility and the fact that I can work hard. There are so many different ways I could do. I can invent my own way of how I want to live, and that'll be fine.
Yeah,
that you cannot do that anywhere else.
And despite our dysfunction, or at least the dysfunction we think that exists, and to some extent it always has existed, it's still, wouldn't you agree, the greatest place for upward mobility, the greatest place for opportunity. And we bicker and we get on the red team and the blue team, and that's a thing that maybe at least I wish weren't a thing, mm-hmm. but I don't know that it's going away because I can't wish it away. Mm-hmm. But even understanding the frustrations I have and others have with the current situation of polarity and lack of compromise and thoughtful solution, despite all of these things, it's still a pretty darn cool place to be.
100%.
Yeah.
Really. I can't think of a better place to be at that right now.
Well, we'll leave it at that, which means now, Ryan, it's time. Are you ready?
I am ready.
For the numbers.
American edition.
American edition. Again, we have to put the anthem somewhere.
Yeah, I'll do it in post.
So, apart from the good news that we talked about just a minute ago, we saw that the market rallied a little bit in January, but that kind of fizzled away in February.
Which is an official fizzle.
Kind of fizzle.
Yeah.
And it's not a surprise. We all know this.
Yep.
The Fed is trying their best to not allow the market to rally before inflation is down.
Yeah. It's working.
It is working so far.
Yeah.
Remember, we had something similar to this last July. Do you remember that?
No, remind me.
So in July,
I'm getting old. I can't remember yesterday. I don't even know where my keys are right now.
Okay. Keys are good. We need them.
He's rethinking his employment right now.
Yeah. What? Now he can go anywhere.
So in July last year, we also had a sudden hike in the market. It rallied quite a bit, especially in tech. And the Fed jumped right into the whole mess because they didn't want that to happen.
Yeah. But that's not a mandate. That's not technically a mandate, is controlling what the stock market does.
That's correct. Yeah, it is not a mandate.
But your feeling is it was a little side mandate.
Because it is it will lead to other things.
It's a whisper mandate.
That's
That's what I'm going to call it.
Yeah.
Feel free to use that.
Subtle mandate.
Yeah.
subtle mandate. Yeah, I
Mhm.
like that. Because the reason the market went up because they felt that the Fed is going to pivot.
Mhm.
And they said, well, if they're going to pivot, the market will rally. The investors started pouring money deploying into the stock market. But the Fed did not want that consensus to stick. So they went in and said, no, we're going to continue raise interest rate, which led the market to also go down and fizzle.
Sure.
And that's what happened here. And the fact that unemployment is still very low
Yeah.
gives the Federal Reserve even more leeway to push.
Well, so those are the mandates, right? Interest rates, inflation
Mhm.
/ unemployment. So we're going to finish these numbers up, Brian, when we come back.
Welcome back to It's Only Money with financial advisors from Edgewater Family Wealth, Scott Brown and Tammy. And where we last left off, Tammy was giving us those sweet, sweet numbers. You play the song?
In case anybody forgot how the theme works. So yeah, that's one again. Good. So where we were talking about was the
fizzle.
The fizzle, yes.
The fizzle market.
That's true. Yeah, the fizzle. Now, despite the fizzle, despite that, we still had the tech sector in the S&P for the year rallying 15% so far.
Year to date.
Yeah. Followed by communication services at 15 too, which is funny because communication services usually is the slow moving one.
Yeah.
With the high paying
interesting.
Yield.
Yeah.
Because last year, when they all kind of had a big drawback.
Yeah.
And it's picking up
Super
now.
fizzle.
We can call it that.
Yeah.
We got silent mandates and super fizzles.
Super fizzle.
I think it became what do you call a soda when the gas is no more there?
Flat.
Yeah.
So it was flat. We let all the fizzle out, pop the top, and now somehow it's refizzling?
Recarbonated?
Recarbonating. Recarbonated market we got here, people.
These are real terms, everybody.
Yes,
Write these down.
Sir. Technical financial terms we're using.
Recarbonation. And somehow that is connected to the U.S. Treasury. I don't know how. But do we know what the U.S. Treasury is paying right now on the 1 year?
We do not.
Do we know, Ryan?
Oh, yeah. I got that info in my back pocket at all times. It's like 14 shekels.
I'm not sure they're measuring it in shekels.
Are they not going by the shekel system
they're
anymore?
Off the shekel system.
Oh.
Yeah. I think Nixon got rid of that.
Oh.
A while back.
Yeah, I thought we went from the gold standard to the shekel standard.
Yeah, you could be right.
But why is it important and why everybody should know this, the 1 year? Because it is considered the risk-free.
Yes.
And I think, and I don't know, Scott, if you agree with this, that at least everyone should know what the risk-free return for a year is.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it's so connected to the integral part of the economy.
So before you finish that thought, why is it important? And the reason it's important is because if you're trying to evaluate an investment, you're going to buy a stock or a bond or a piece of real estate or anything, any kind of investment, speculative investment, you need to understand, well, what's the risk-free rate of return, right? If I were just to buy a treasury, which I'll now open the door for you to give us the rate.
Now it's almost 5.
Yeah. So if you say, well, I could get 5% for the next year in a treasury, which, barring the U.S. going out of business, which, we have ways around that. Barring that happening, I'm going to get 5%. Basically the risk-free rate of return. But so if you're saying, well, I'm going to buy a real piece of real estate or I'm going to buy a stock or I'm going to buy a whatever, what is the potential return to the person who's selling you this idea or this product or whatever it is? And if it's less than 5%, you're like, why would I do that? Right? If my potential return over time, in this case 1 year, is less than 5%, I'm just going to buy the treasury and go play golf. Right?
Absolutely.
But that's not exactly how the world works. We know you have to get a premium over the risk-free rate of return, hence its existence, right, to invest in more speculative things. Maybe you want to build a piece of real estate that you can rent out, or maybe you're going to buy a stock or invest in a REIT or invest in something over the long term that there's no guarantee you're going to beat the 5%, but you believe there is a reasonable expectation, quote unquote, that you'll earn 8 or 9. And the question in your mind should be, what's worth it? Is it worth it for me to earn 6 to take a lot more risk with my money? And if the answer is no, then you don't do that. But if you say the number's 9 in my hypothetical world, I could get 5, but if I take risk, I might earn 9. Then you might consider that again. So why you need to understand that risk-free rate of return is because you need something to benchmark your decision to. And that's how professionals do it. They say, if you run an insurance company and you say, I've got all these premiums coming in that I might have to pay out if a hurricane comes through, but in the meantime, I want to earn as much as I can, but then I don't want to take a lot of risk because if the hurricane comes tomorrow, et cetera, you weigh what is the potential return versus this 5% I know I can get. That is your, I'll use the term fiduciary responsibility to look at all of that math before you make a decision. And all of that decision should be at least anchored in some way to the risk-free rate of return.
I couldn't explain it better.
Oh, thank God, because I was just kind of winging it there for a minute.
Yeah, just financial freestyling.
Yeah.
Then the risk-free, when you say it's risk-free for our listeners, not for me,
No,
it just means it's backed by the U.S. government.
Correct.
Right, which is backed by planes and aircraft carriers.
That is 100% correct. We got the biggest aircraft carriers and the biggest bombers, so that is what we need to support our currency.
Mm. So where are we at with the old I word, guys? The old inflation.
Mm.
Oh, yes.
Speaking of Spanish.
Yeah.
That's a word I need to learn now. See it in different languages. So it is going the right direction, but not as fast as we want it to.
Mm.
And now it's about.
Can I just be like, hey, Costco, lower your prices?
Mm.
No, it doesn't work like that.
I mean, you can yell.
Can I leave a Yelp review of inflation and be like, 2 stars?
2 stars for inflation.
Inflation.
Do not
like
recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try that at home, right? So inflation now is 6.4 almost for the year, and that it is measured from same moment last year every 12 months.
Mm.
So right now is 6.4.
Can we talk real quick about this core versus headline number and explain to people again? I know we've done it before, but I think it's important for people people get mad.
Oh yeah, you've explained it to me several times, and I forget about it, and I'll see the number, and I forget that there's the 2 different, and I'll be like, oh my god,
yeah. People
get mad.
People get mad because they're like, that's not the real inflation number. They're both real. They're just different measures. So I do get it's confusing core versus headline.
it's Schrodinger's financial system.
Exactly. So to that end, explain to the fine people out in radio land the difference between core and headline inflation.
To put it in simple words, one includes food and gas.
Yep.
The other doesn't.
Yeah. And so the argument when people get angry, which people get angry about weird stuff, is, well, why would you leave that out? And the reason is because the 2 aforementioned things, right? The energy and food costs are very volatile.
Mm-hmm.
So you could throw that in, that's included in the headline number, right? And you say, well, why do you take that out for core? And you take that out for core because we could announce tomorrow that headline number is 6.8. And by the time you read it, it could be 6.2 because those 2 other things have fluctuated so doggone. Maybe eggs have come down 30% in a week, right? Or gas prices, which seem to rise and drop pretty regularly, could have gone one way or the other. So there's a reason that they look at these 2 things. One's a more stable reflection of prices that are largely unaffected by interest rates, and one is a reflection of things that are more directly a reflection of where interest rates are. Did I say that right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
All right, cool.
And why does food fluctuate so much?
Well, remember why any price fluctuates because of supply and demand, one, and the resources that you get out of that particular item. So the question now will be, well, food, where do we get it from? Right. And then you have all these, you import some of it, you produce some of it, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not particularly because of interest rate going up or down. It does not change the prices of it as much. That's why it's out. Again.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that food can be volatile. You could have a bad crop. You could have bad weather. You could have cost of transportation through fuel prices. So there's reasons that these things are excluded. I'm kind of with the crowd, like, inflation is inflation. I don't care what you put in, what you take out. But I also, understand intellectually why they do it. It makes some sense why they would pay more attention to one than the other.
I honestly, that happened. I went to the store and I unloaded my groceries. And I don't know how you guys unload your groceries, but I like to impress my lady with my feats of strength.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I try to get all the bags.
Oh yeah.
All
Oh,
at once.
the one
you
trip
know?
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
going back.
One trip.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
Well, this particular afternoon, I'm unloading. I got it all ready, and I had missed one of the loops on a bag, and out falls a carton of eggs.
Oh,
And I was
liquid
and I
gold.
was like, I guess I can't make my car payment now. And just to look, because eggs back in the day, I mean, like I ate eggs in college to just survive, you know, because they were cheap. You get a whole bunch for like 65 cents. And now I look at those eggs and I was just openly angry for the rest of the day.
And the little missus was not impressed by your feats of strength.
She should be more impressed by that. That's really hard to do. She doesn't understand. She's like, why don't you just make 3 trips? Because I'm a man and this is America. And this is the only thing I can really do to show you how dexterous and strong I am.
That's right. Yeah. How about that, honey?
Exactly. But it's an interesting time because look, they suck me in. The news media is really good at making me mad. I guess I feel
That
like
is their job.
I feel like I'm getting closer every day to being my grandpa, where I'm just going to sit and yell at the TV all the time. And you were explaining to me that that's their job, and anger shouldn't weigh into your financial decisions. And I'm hoping we could talk a little bit about that when we come back.
You got it.
All right, you're listening to It's Only Money here on your radio. Check out edgewaterfamilywealth.com to get a hold of these gentlemen and check out all the past episodes, blogs, and such. We'll be right back. Welcome back to It's Only Money here on the radio. I'm here with Scott Brown and Tammy from Edgewater Family Wealth. EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com, of course, is the website. Financial Talks with Tammy is there. Past episodes, blogs, all the info that you need to get in contact with these gentlemen and the beautiful organization that is Edgewater Family Wealth. And Scott, I was thinking, we don't make enough people mad on this show.
No.
You know, I've seen other financial shows.
Right.
We got to have buttons that make frogs and deer and whatever animals. Locus come and we gotta yell at people a lot, and we gotta really rile them up. You don't do enough riling, Scott.
I got to be more of a riler.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting about that, and I mean this. It's funny because people intuitively know this, but they tend to ignore it, and they find that first of all, human beings don't like variability. They like predictability. They don't like unknown, random outcomes, which is life, basically. Life can be rather random at times. People don't like that. So we know what makes us angry, right? If I said, well, give me 5 things that make you angry, you could reel them off one after another. Right?
Oh,
Easy,
yeah.
Right?
Easy.
Look at the both of you like coming at me here. I'll tell you.
Nickelback, bananas, lizards in my house.
Yes.
When the dog won't go to bed.
Yeah.
And my fiance. No.
Oh.
It was good knowing you.
Yeah, it was you were good to 4. 5 could be a problem. But yeah, so people can reel off what makes them angry, so they gravitate towards anger, which is a weird thing, right? But your dopamine fire, that good feeling you get in your brain when you think you're being smart or clever or whatever, we gravitate towards that. So every night we go home and we put on our favorite news channel so that it will make us angry. Because somehow being angry feels good. It's comforting to us that guy or that gal that we watch every night on whatever our team channel is, we know what they're going to say. And what they're going to say already agrees with what makes us angry, right? They're going to say the exact right people are to blame and that they're doing this thing to me. And then I can go to bed tonight knowing that I'm still right. I'm still angry, but I feel somehow good about this correctness that I have in my head because for the 800th night in a row, I've watched the same news show, right? We struggle as human beings with happiness. Like, what's happiness? If I say define happiness, people will stutter and banana splits, babies, puppies, like they don't really know what that means. So you can't really grab happiness. You can't really determine what it is, and it's fleeting, right? What made you happy today probably won't make you happy tomorrow. So happiness is this weird, intangible feeling. Is it comfort? Is it is happiness when you're busting out laughing with your pals on the golf course because one of you fell out of the golf cart. I mean, for me, that's happiness. But
Yeah.
it's just hard to define. We can define anger, we can define unhappiness, so we gravitate towards it, especially when it comes to hard things to solve. Right? If there's a hard problem, let's face it, immigration, interest rates, economic policy, educational policy. There's 350 million people we're trying to make happy. Well, we gave up on that. We're not trying to make people happy anymore. We're just trying to make half the people pissed off about this and half the people pissed off about that, because politicians have discovered that that's a substitute. That's a better substitute, because they can't solve the complex problems without compromise. And since they gave up on compromising a long time ago, they're just like, who are you going to piss off today, Bill? I don't know. I'm going to piss off these red people. How about you? I'm going to get the blue people. And they go about their business. So we know what we're unhappy about. We don't know what exactly from moment to moment what makes us happy. And that's really not good for investing, right? Because if you're angry about the politics or the economics and you're blaming other people, which I'll go into later, it's just easier. It's just easier to say, I am at this station economically in my life because of these people. And these people are the problem. And if I go to bed every night knowing these people to blame, I'm comfortable that I, quote unquote, know something. Right? So I think that's essentially what we all gravitate towards.
That's a great point.
Yeah, you're dropping truth bombs over there. But you're right. There is a significant amount of people that I know that they're just some will go wrong for them, or maybe they're just not as and where they're at, want to be at their career. And I gotta be honest with you, it's probably relieving to go like, it's not me.
Yeah,
it's obviously
for sure
not me. It's this other over here, and that's why I'm not where I'm supposed to be at. But instead, instead of looking at the mirror, I mean, you probably sleep great. I don't have that. I'm like, I go to bed, I'm like, oh my God, it's me. And this is why I don't sleep well and live with anxiety.
Well, I think so there's a term going back to locus, but this is locus without the T. There's something called inner locus and external locus. And some people have inner locus and some people have external locus. And psychologists define this basically as people with inner locus, like you're describing, Ryan, believe that all of your outcomes are based on you. What I do, how I act, the decisions I make, the spouse I choose, what I have for dinner, all determines my health and my economic outcomes, right? That's inner locus. I would argue there's, I don't know if that's 20 or 30% of the population has an extreme inner locus. Entrepreneurs tend to have a very extreme inner locus. External locus is when you believe outside factors are the reason for your existence, right? That I am living in this house that I don't like because Jerome Powell raised interest rates, or because Joe Biden is president, or because Donald Trump used to be president, or, whatever your reasons are, you believe that external factors that are not in your control, like luck, where you were born. And that's not to say that there isn't some truth to the thoughts a person with external locus has, because let's face it, if you're born in Somalia, your potential, your road is going to be longer. And harder. There's zero doubt to that. But it isn't impossible. So people with an internal locus would say, yes, I was born in Somalia, in a war-torn country, and bad things are happening, and the water's not clean, but I'm still in control of where I go with life, right? Now, you could say, well, what about disease and infection and things that people, well, again, there are certainly, it's not infallible and it's certainly not absolute. But, getting to the internal locus things, we know that people who have an internal locus are higher earners. Their net worth is on average higher than people who have external locus, because external locus causes you to seek easy and quick solutions. Like, I'm going to buy gold from the guy on TV who says the world's going to end. I'm going to buy crypto stocks. I'm going to buy meme stocks. I'm going to look for shortcuts. They tend to have what they call low money awareness. They don't educate themselves. They just jump at things, right? They don't say, okay, you're telling me I should buy Bitcoin or Ethereum, and then they go, okay, I'll do it. They don't, well, wait a minute. Let me do a Google search. Let me talk to some smart people. There's a guy down the street who's pretty wealthy. Maybe I should get her opinion or his opinion. They don't do that. They actually have money avoidance. They'd rather not talk about it. It's almost kind of like if they fail, they don't feel like they tried that hard. It's like I always tell people in the office there are people who have perfect fielding records when they're in Little League because they never dive for a ball. They feel the ball comes right to them and they throw. If it doesn't come right to them, they ain't getting dirty, right? And I feel like there's a lot of people out there that don't want to get dirty for fear they'll make a mistake. And you have to get dirty. You have to do the reading. You have to get the education. Speak to somebody. That's why financial advisors, that's where they earn their money, is they kind of sum up that education for you if they're a good one. They give it to you in layman's terms so that you can understand the decision you're making is not perfect, but it's better than average. So inner locus is somebody who believes that their success is entirely their responsibility. External locus is somebody that believes they pretty much have no control over outcomes.
One of the biggest eye openers for me as an adult was figuring out that people that can fundamentally think differently. Because when you walk around as a human, you're like, of course, everybody thinks the way that I have. But like, there are people that don't have an inner voice in their head, which blew my mind when I found that out. When I found out about aphantasia, which aphantasia is basically you don't have a visual imagination, and it affects like a small amount of people. And the only way you can find out if you have it is like there's a test for it, which this is the test. Okay. Now you guys get to find out if you have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready.
All right. So picture a ball bouncing on a table. Okay. Got it?
Got it.
What color is the ball?
Red.
Blue.
Okay. See, a person with aphantasia would go, what?
Yeah.
How would I know that? How would I know what the ball color is?
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it really is. So when you talk about inner and outer locus, that's kind of where my brain goes. And honestly, I don't understand the outer locus people because I don't like the outside factors being a thing.
Yeah.
I get mad when the outside factors come in and I'm like, no, I'm in control of this.
Yep.
To feel out of control is what I don't want. You know?
Well, people with high inner locus also have better emotional stability. It's like let's say you get pulled over by a police officer and they say you ran the stop sign. Now, good and well, you didn't run the stop sign. So a person with external locus would freak out, call the officer all kinds of names, take down their badge number and say a bunch of stupid stuff. And the ticket would probably be higher than it needed to be, right? Maybe you're right, but your emotional lack of internal focus and locus in this case led to emotional instability, which led to a worse outcome.
Awesome. We can talk more about that when we get back. You're listening to It's Only Money here on the radio. Make sure you check out edgewaterfamilywealth.com. Pull it up on your phone right now as we go into a little break here, and we'll be right back with more It's Only Money. Welcome back to It's Only Money here on the radio with financial advisor Scott Brown and Tammy. They're both with Edgewater Family Wealth. Edgewater Family Wealth, of course, .com is the website you want to go to get a hold of these gentlemen and check out all the past episodes and things like that. It's also just a really well-built website. Check it out. Tell your friends.
Please.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting because talking about how people like emotionally do different things when it comes to money. And it's going to be odd on a show based about finance and things like that. But there seems to be like a money worship that we sort of have in this society. Like, and to the point where it can become detrimental. Like we're always talking like, look, flashing money. We see these athletes, these rock stars are flashing the money. Lotto winners love to go big, but then one of my favorite versions of a YouTube rabbit hole is lottery winners who lost it all.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's a common thing. I mean, I think the statistics are like 30-something% of all lottery winners end up bankrupt within
30.
End up bankrupt within the first 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and or murdered. There's a half a dozen really high-profile cases where somebody killed them, because they wanted to get at the money. So, money worship is a problem. So, people say, "Oh, I want to get rich." That's really not what they mean. I don't think. I think they think it's what they mean, but what they want to be is stable. What they want to be is comfortable. What they want to have is options. Money's a tool. I wrote about this in my book that, I'm not enamored with money. I'm not sitting here because I love the idea of, Scrooge McDucking it through a big barrel of money every day, right?
That's what I picture you do when you leave the studio.
Okay, once a week. But other than that, no. So, money worship is unhealthy because then the money controls you. And what happens to these celebrities early on in their careers is they think it's about the money. Then they realize that they're not any happier. There goes that word again. They're not any happier than they were when they didn't have money and they were going through the struggle. So what they need, I think, would be nice for, if you come on sudden wealth, you're usually not prepared for it. Whether you're a rock star, you get that big contract, or an athlete. A lot of times that just simply doesn't go well because people aren't prepared for sudden wealth. People who accumulate wealth over time are prepared because they were broke, and they weren't broke, and then eventually they became sort of wealthy, and then they became pretty wealthy, and then they became very wealthy. But this happened, let's say, over a span of 20 years, right? As opposed to here's $300 million, right? Most people are not prepared. I wouldn't have been prepared. I'm not even sure I'd be prepared right now, to be honest with you. So again, most people just aren't prepared for what happens when you get sudden wealth. First of all, you get a lot of new friends who want to help, quote unquote, help you with your money, even though they don't have any themselves. So this idea of money worship is a problem. Not that you shouldn't be aware of money, you shouldn't be educated, because the two things go together, right? It seems like people who have money avoidance, which means they avoid thoughtful conversations or educational material, or people who are willing to teach them things, they avoid these conversations because it's not a shortcut. It doesn't feel good. I'm not there yet. I don't want to know about these things because then I'll have to save, or then I'll have to cut back, or then they don't want to hear these things because it'll get in the way of what they believe their life is supposed to look like. Are also the same people sometimes that worship these celebrities who have all the gold and have the fancy cars and the reality TV shows and all these things. And you see, what's funny about these reality TV shows is everybody seems to be crying all the time. Like whenever I walk by, my wife, I have to admit, is addicted to these shows, which I can't quite figure out. But I'll walk by one, and these very wealthy people are always upset about something. So what does that tell you? I mean, it's just not a recipe for happiness. So I think if you're thoughtful about money, money can be a tool. It can be a tool to educate your family, to feed your family, to house your family, to save for retirement. But to think it's this thing that you should worship and it's going to make you happy all of a sudden. We already know statistically, or I should say studies have been done, that once somebody reaches sustenance, they have a nice house to live in or a comfortable home to live in, they have clothing, and they don't have to worry about food. Once you get past that point, which, by the way, isn't all the world, but in this country, it's largely true. I'm not saying it's always true, but it's largely true. And once you get past that point, having more money doesn't make you any happier. Now, I will say this about that. If you're a internal locus person who's driven by growth, and you like the idea of, hey, I want to build a company and I want to employ people, I want to do good in the world, I'm going to make this widget and that's going to save lives, or whatever drives you to generate growth, whatever drives you to add value to society, money's a tool for that. But that doesn't mean you worship money, right? People like Elon Musk and Warren Buffett, they don't live on that mass wealth that you're always hearing about. They live on 1/100,000th of that wealth, right? Warren Buffett's still driving the same old Lincoln he had in the same house in Nebraska, right? He's not buying Bentleys. He doesn't have a fleet of them behind his house. He's investing in other companies. He's growing research and development. He's acquiring another company so he can make it better so that more people can work there. This idea that you just get money and wallow in it and show all your friends, it's really not a healthy thing. And I think it leads to a lot of bad decisions. And again, the irony is the people who think that way are typically the people that never end up with the money.
Now, okay, actual rich people. I only know TV rich people.
Right.
So when I see rich people on TV, they are flashy. They've got all the stuff. They're crying a lot too. You're right. But do actual rich people? How do they live? Would I know them if I saw them?
Most of the time, no. I mean, there are people who have, I call it, in the book, The Millionaire Next Door, they call it big hat, no cattle. There are a lot of high earners out there, people who make $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year, which is fantastic. So, one percenters, right? Income wise, who live on the edge. So that you will know it with them. You'll know they're a high earner because they'll live in a big house. They'll have a fancy car. They'll talk about their trip to the Hamptons or Europe or whatever. But they're also in a lot of cases living on the edge. They're just living on a higher edge, right? The ledge they fall off is going to be really bad. And this happened in 07 and 08. I knew a few people who were in that category, and it was catastrophic for them because their lifestyles were on the edge of the income they were producing by somewhat suspect means, meaning they were over leveraged in real estate. They were flipping homes. They had 5 homes they couldn't afford, even though they were making $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000 a year, which brings me back to a point I made last week or the week before is the problem high earners have a lot of times, the biggest mistake they make is they're trying to get rich twice, right? Because if you're making $300,000 a year, I got news for you. There's no excuse for you not to be wealthy 10 years from now or 15, because if you just save 10% of your income, you're going to have millions of dollars, right? But the problem for these people a lot of times is somebody will say, hey, I know you're a high earner. How about you give me some money to do this lane brain thing that I want you to do? Because we'll triple your money. And you think, sure, who doesn't want to triple their money, right? And if you just took the simpler path, because, doctors are the easy one. Everybody has a great idea for their doctor because everybody knows doctors make a nice income.
Mm-hmm.
And they say, well, yeah, I do. You did the hard part. You went to medical school. You suffered through residency. You suffered through learning your specialty if you're a surgeon. Now you make $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 a year. Why would you then do something you know nothing about and speculate when if you just did the easy thing and were a badass surgeon and saved 10, 15, 20% of your income and lived in a nice but not crazy house, you would be rich for the rest of your life. The problem is a lot of these people who are high earners, who are the showy people, they want to get rich twice.
Something you said earlier really struck with me was like how if you suddenly get a bunch of money, if you start broke and you're a little less broke and then you're eventually wealthy. I think that's why, like, I'll be okay, like, financially, because I am so used to being broke.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know how to navigate broke. And now that I'm not, I still sort of live with that mentality a little bit. But I don't want to get rid of it either, because I'm like, oh, that's helped me for a long run. It curbs what I want to spend.
Agreed. I think, again, there's no better teacher than poverty. The most people who are extremely wealthy that I know came from impoverished backgrounds.
Wow, that's a truth bomb I was unaware of.
Yeah, well, they had to mow lawns early if they wanted the candy or the pinball game because mom and dad weren't giving it to them.
Did you know this show is free, Scott? This is a free show that we give all this information. What? Oh yeah, you're very bad at this. But you are listening to It's Only Money. If you want to get a hold of Scott and Tammy, EdgewaterFamilyWealth.com is the website. Once again, congratulations to new American citizen Tammy.
Thank you, my fellow citizens.
All right, and Scott Brown, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, and clearly people are rich, right? Or wealthy. You don't have to be rich. I like the term wealthy better. I mean, to rich reminds me of like the Monopoly guy or something. But, they're people, they're regular people.
Now that guy I trust. You see the problem, Scott? You don't have a monocle.
Monocle is, now, if you can meet a guy with a monocle, I mean, like, I'm all in.
What was his financial advice? He said buy Park Place?
Where is that?
Where is that? I can't find it.
Tune in to It's Only Money with Scott Brown from Edgewater Family Wealth, Sunday mornings at 7 on Real Radio 104.1. Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Edgewater Family Wealth is not a broker-dealer, is independent of RJFS.